Hi, this is Beth Phillips. I am the publisher of PAHomeschoolLaw.com, which is a website that helps parents understand and navigate the Pennsylvania homeschool law. In this mini training, I'll explain how a supervisor can issue a diploma under the PA Homeschool Law. This is a bonus module of the PA Homeschool Law virtual workshop, which is a video course where I explain the legal filing requirements of the Pennsylvania homeschool law from the beginning to the end of a single school year. I don't include this topic in the core modules because it's only relevant to a small percentage of homeschooling families in any given year, and I thought this short video could give you an idea about the style and format of the virtual workshop to help you decide if you're more likely to learn from it than reading a blog post or an ebook on the subject. But I also thought it would help parents who are in the position of graduating a home-educated senior. So let's check it out. When the homeschool law was amended in 2014, it added a provision whereby supervisors can issue a diploma that carries the same rights and privileges as one issued by the Commonwealth. You can find that language in section D.1, subsection 1 of the homeschool law. The rest of that section outlines the requirements and procedures. It's important to note that the supervisor-issued diploma does not apply to a private tutor program. So if you are a PA certified teacher and conduct a private tutor program, you should consider if you want to file as a supervisor in the final year of your student's high school career. And that way you can issue a diploma under this provision. In order to award a diploma, the supervisor must meet 3 criteria. First, I'll summarize them and then we'll discuss each one individually. First, the student must meet the minimum graduation requirements outlined in subsection D of the homeschool law. The parent must use the standardized form, which is available on the Pennsylvania Department of Education website. And third, the diploma should be signed by the 12th grade evaluator. So, what are the minimum graduation requirements? This information is found in the statute at 24 PS, section 1327.1, subsection D, and it identifies the minimum number of credits in each required subject. So that section requires a minimum of 15 credits. I want to point out that the graduation requirements for students enrolled in a public or private secondary school is 21, and as of this recording, the minimum for a home education program is still 15 credits in the subjects identified in the next slide. So subsection D establishes the following minimum courses for graduation from a home education program. And by the way, you can find the text of the homeschool law on PAHomeschoolLaw.com. If you go to resources on the menu bar and a drop-down menu, click on that, and a drop-down menu says like text of the law. So that's where you can find a version of it. So the following minimum courses for graduation are 4 years of English, 3 years of mathematics, 3 years of science, 3 years of social studies, 2 years of arts and humanities. The law doesn't define a year. Other than that, 180 days or 990 hours satisfies the time requirement for all subjects. The question that arises is how to give credit to satisfy the graduation requirements. There are a few ways to calculate or assign credit equal to a year of a course of study, but I think an important consideration is what the student's plans are after high school. For example, the NCAA Clearinghouse has its own standards for eligibility to participate in collegiate athletics. Another example are military or trade schools or civil service requirements. They each have their own sort of standards. So that's a consideration when you're deciding what courses will fulfill the credit requirement. A good article on the website homeschoolsuccess.com identifies 3 ways to calculate credits for high school, so I thought they were useful and I included them here. The first is called Carnegie units, and this is probably the most recognizable. It's typical for in-person schools, and this method uses time in class or seat time as a unit. So 120 to 150 hours of seat time in a subject is equal to a credit. A second approach is mastery of content in a subject. The content can come from traditional textbook units, online course syllabi, or training, and mastery can be measured in different ways, including quizzes, exams, papers, or even standardized tests like the CLEP and SAT subject testing. Finally, a third approach is meeting learning objectives. So a combination of all of these can satisfy the requirement. One might be more appropriate for a particular subject than another. So it's the supervisor and the student's responsibility to convey to the 12th year evaluator that the requirements were met. The second criteria is that the form provided by the Pennsylvania Department of Education on its website is used by the supervisor. So you just go to the website. I include a link here. It's pretty easy to find on Google, and just download that form. Before we talk about how to prove that the basic graduation requirements were met, I want to emphasize that the evaluator is performing 2 roles for the graduating student. The first is to review the portfolio for the school year and certify that an appropriate education has occurred. The parent submits, or the supervisor submits, the certification letter to the school district. That would complete the legal obligation of the supervisor for the school year as it pertains to that student. The second responsibility of the evaluator is separate and requires the evaluator to review a transcript to discern whether the student has met the minimum graduation requirements in order to sign the diploma. It's important to understand that you do not have to submit the diploma to the school district. This would be for your student's own records and serves as proof to any high school or post-high school program or institution that a diploma was earned. Most of those most of the institutions wouldn't necessarily be interested in the diploma itself, but what supported the diploma. All right, so we can move on. So I like to think of this as show and tell. It really is important to support the basic graduation requirements that you're claiming for the student. So the supervisor has this responsibility, and the student should be on board with it too. Be sure to ask your evaluator if he or she is comfortable reviewing the requirements to sign the supervisor-issued diploma. If so, and you would, of course, do this ahead of time, ask what method the evaluator prefers, or explain what method you and your student used to support that the credits were met, or that the year or minimum requirements were met, just to make sure that the evaluator agrees and is fine with that. The law doesn't define how to prove, but you and or the student should be prepared to support a transcript or other method. So let's talk about how you might be able to do that. First is a transcript. This is like the most common. It could be a spreadsheet. You can find fillable transcript templates on the internet, or you can create your own. You can include points and averages, grade point averages, but it's not required for the diploma. Another method is to identify the courses and describe the resources and projects and papers in a narrative form. I would suggest that you organize this so it's in an easy to read format and the evaluator can scan it and ask any questions if they need to. Finally, you can bring portfolios from previous years and be prepared to elaborate if necessary to satisfy the evaluator that the requirements were met. And keep in mind that the 12th year evaluator may or may not have been with you for the whole 4 years. So you're going to have some way to show that those requirements were met. And even if they have been with you for the whole 4 years, it's important to, they might not necessarily remember what the student has done in the past. So I hope this has been helpful, and I want to congratulate you and your student on completing at least the 12th year home education program. If not, maybe it's their entire career. But I think it takes a lot of courage and dedication, and I just congratulate you.